If you've ever wondered why you keep burning out even when you rest, this video is for you. I'm glad you're here. You're not still pushing because you have something to prove. You're still pushing because nobody taught you that high achieving, like any elite strength, requires a recovery period. And without it, the strongest engine burns out. You've built your entire career on your ability to push through, to deliver when others tap out, to hold more, execute more, and make it look manageable. That's not a character flaw. That's a genuine strength. The problem isn't that you're a high achiever. The problem is that you've been treating that strength like it has no ceiling. Here's what I know from coaching hundreds of working parents through burnout. The same engine that gets you to the top will drive you straight into the wall if the sprint never gets a signal to stop. Here's the belief I want to challenge, that if you're burning out, it means something is wrong with you, that you finally hit your limit, that other people at your level are somehow handling this better, and you just aren't built for the pace. And I completely understand why you believe that, because you've always been the one who could handle more. You've trained yourself over years to equate pushing through with capability. Every time you delivered under pressure, every time you stayed late and still showed up early, every time you held it together when everyone else was unraveling, you reinforce the belief that more capacity is always the answer. So when you start to crack, the story you tell yourself is, I'm losing my edge. I don't have what it takes. I just need to push harder. But here's what that story is missing. Think about elite athletes and musicians, the ones who compete at the highest level, who perform at Carnegie Hall after months of preparations. Are they the hardest workers in the field? Yes. Are they also the ones with the most structured recovery built into their training? Also yes. The performance and the recovery aren't in opposition. The recovery is what makes the performance possible. The difference is someone else builds that recovery into an athlete's calendar. For you, nobody's going to build it in but you. High achieving without recovery isn't ambition. It's over-functioning on autopilot. And if you've been running on autopilot, pushing because that's what you know how to do, not because you've chosen it, this video is for you. I want to walk you through what this actually looks like, the calibration problem, why your sprints need an end date, and the difference between rest and reset. Let's talk about the calibration problem. Burnout in high achievers isn't an execution problem, and it isn't a discipline problem. It's a calibration problem. Every strength has an overuse pattern. A marathoner's endurance is an asset for 26.2 miles. Apply that same drive every single day without a recovery period, and you get injury. The strength didn't change. The calibration did. High achieving works the same way. In the right dose, it's a competitive advantage. But when there's no signal to stop, the strength turns against you. And if you're also a people pleaser who can't disappoint, or a perfectionist who can't call anything finished, those patterns amplify the engine. There's no internal brake. The solution isn't to stop being a high achiever. It's to stop letting the strength run unchecked. You don't have an execution problem. You have a calibration problem. And calibration is fixable. The strength that got you here isn't the problem. The absence of a recovery phase is. So if calibration is the problem, giving your sprints an end date is the fix. Athletes call it periodization. Peak weeks, taper weeks, recovery weeks, all mapped in advance. The biology is identical for high achievers. The difference is the culture doesn't name the cycle. It just runs until you collapse and calls it dedication. My son got married not long ago. In the months leading up to it, I was carrying a lot. The toast, baking a dozen plus cookies of the bride and groom's favorite, writing gratitude notes to all my family and friends attending. And underneath it all, this was the first time my kids, my ex-husband, and the families we'd each built since our divorce were all together for something that mattered this much. We'd been together for graduations, but this was the first wedding. I knew the weekend would be physically and emotionally full. So before it arrived, I blocked 3 days off of work immediately after. Not because I was depleted, because I knew I would be. That's the difference between an intentional sprint and an unmanaged one. You design the recovery period before you need it, not after you've already hit the wall. Recovery doesn't mean just rest, and that distinction is everything. You're not burning out because you pushed too hard. You're burning out because the sprint never got an end date. Some sprints are more unique. A wedding, a move, a one-time project at work. They're finite, and intentional recovery is enough. The sprint isn't coming back on the same schedule. But most of the sprints that burn high achievers out are. They're recurring, the brutal quarter that becomes every quarter. For those, rest alone isn't enough. Think about a senior leader in consulting. I'll call her Ainsley. Every summer, she and her family took a 2-week vacation at their favorite beach. She came back recharged, ready, and by October 1, she was exhausted again. The next summer, same result. The rest was real. It worked. But she was returning to an identical system every time. Rest asks, how do I recover from this sprint? Reset asks, what needs to be different about the next one? Reset means looking at what you're doing, what you're carrying, and what you're saying yes to, and asking what needs to change before the next push begins. Maybe you start earlier. Maybe you delegate more. Maybe you add resources before you're desperate for them. Maybe you stop doing something altogether. If delegating or asking for help feels harder than it should, that's the same pattern from earlier showing up again. Notice it and practice doing it anyway. This is what working smarter, not harder, actually looks like. And if you've tried this and the system genuinely won't move, that's not a calibration problem anymore. That's a different conversation. Rest refuels the engine. Reset redesigns the route. Here's what actually shifts when you start using your high achieving the way elite performers use any strength. You stop trying to push through by finding more willpower. You stop feeling like something is fundamentally broken about you. And you start asking a different question. Not, how do I survive this pace? But, what does this sprint need in order to be followed by a real recovery? And what does that recovery need to build? Not just rest, reset. You're a high achiever. That's real. The strength is real. But strength without calibration isn't high performance. It's high cost. And you've already paid a high cost. If you're ready to stop cycling through the same burnout pattern and start building something that actually holds, come join Ambitious and Well, where overwhelmed working moms start becoming energized leaders. It's free, and the link is in the description. I'll see you inside. Thanks for being here with me today.